Namaste, Javians. Myself, Kritika Sharmare from the Department of Food, Agriculture and Veterinary Sciences, and precisely from the Department of Food and Biotechnology. So, this is our eighth session for the topic Food Business Management, and the topic which we'll be covering today is organizational climates. Talking about the organizational climates, a byproduct of the company's culture is the organizational climate. The overall tone of the workplace and the morale of the workers and employees are of daily climate. Workers' attitudes dictate the positive or negative atmosphere of the workplace. The daily relationships and interactions of employees are indicative of the organizational climate. Talking about the resources are the people, information, facilities, infrastructure, machinery, equipment, supplies, and finances at an organization's disposal. People are the paramount resources of all the organization. The information, facilities, machinery, equipments, materials, supplies, and finances are supporting non-human resources that complement workers in their quest to accomplish the organization's mission statement. The availability of the resources and the way that managers value the human and non-human resources impact the organization's environment. The philosophy of management is a manager's set of personal beliefs and values about people and work such as something that the manager can control. The manager's leadership styles. The number of co-workers involved within a problem-solving or a decision-making process reflects the manager's leadership style. The empowerment means delegating to subordinates decision-making authority. The freedom, knowledge, autonomy, and skills. Fortunately, most of the organizations and managers are making the move towards the active participation and teamwork that empowerment entails. When guided properly, an empowered workforce may lead to heightened productivity and quality, reduced costs, more innovation, improved customer service, and greater commitment from the employees of the organization. In addition, response time may improve because information and decision need not be passed up and down the hierarchy. Empowering employees makes good sense because employees closest to the actual problem can be solved or the customer to the server can make the necessary decisions more easily than a supervisor or manager removed from the scene. Adapting to the environment. Now, talking about his adaptation to the environment, the role of a manager is to monitor and shape the internal and external environments and to anticipate changes and react quickly to them. The manager can monitor the environment through boundary spanning, which is a process of gathering information about developments that could impact the future of the organization. Managers can access information through a variety of sources such as customer and supplier feedback, that is, professional, trade, and government publications, or industry associations and personal contact. The managers can also actively work to influence the external environment through lobbying, voting, and use of media to influence public opinion. The internal elements comprise the organization itself. The internal change arises from activities and decisions within the organization. The managers can gather information by conducting a thorough evaluation of the internal operations of the organization. The purpose of this internal analysis is to identify the organizational assets, resources, skills, and the processes that represent either strength or weaknesses. The strengths are aspects of the organization's operations that represent potential competitive advantages. Any aspect of the organization that distinguishes it from its competitors in a positive way, while weaknesses that area are areas that are in need of the improvement. Several key areas of the organization's operation should be examined in an internal analysis. The key areas of the assess include the marketing, financial, research and development, production, and general management capabilities. These areas are typically evaluated in terms of the extent to which they foster quality and support the competitive advantage sought by the organization. Quite literally, the organizations operate by people making decisions. A manager plans, organizes, staffs, leads, and controls her team by executing decisions. The effectiveness and quality of those decisions determine how successful a manager will be. The managers are constantly called upon to make decisions in order to solve problems. Decision making and problem solving are ongoing processes of evaluation, situation, or problems, considering alternatives, making choices, and following them with the necessary actions. Some of the decision making process is um, extremely short and mental reflection is essentially instantaneous. In other situations, the process can drag on for a week or even months. The decision-making process involves the following steps, that is defining the problem, identifying limiting factors, develop potential alternatives, analyze the alternatives, select the best alternative, implement the decisions, and establish a control and evaluation system. The decision-making process begins with the manager identifying the real problem. The accurate definition of the problem affects all the steps that follow. If the problem is inaccurately defined, every step in the decision-making process will be based on the incorrect starting point. One way that the manager can help determines the true problem in a situation is by identifying the problem separately from its symptoms. The most obvious trouble situations found in an organization can usually be identified as symptoms of underlying problems. These symptoms all indicate that something is wrong with an organization, but they don't identify the root causes. A successful manager does not just attack symptoms, but he works to uncover the factors that cause these symptoms. If there are low profits and declining sales, then the underlying problem can be the poor market research. If there are high costs, then the underlying problem can be poor design process or poorly trained employees. If there's a low morale of the employees, then there's a lack of communication between the management and subordinates. If the high employee turnover, then the rate of pay is too low or the job design is not suitable. Now, when we talk about identifying limiting factors, all managers want to make the best decision. So, to do so, the managers need to have the ideal resources, that is, information, time, personnel, equipment, and supplies, and identify and limiting any limiting factors. Realistically, managers operate in an environment that normally doesn't provide ideal resources. For example, they may lack the proper budget or may not have the most accurate information or any extra time. So they must choose to satisfy, that is to make the best decision possible with the information, resources, and the time available. The time pressures frequently causes a manager to move forward after considering only the first and the most obvious answers. However, successful problem solving requires thorough examination of the challenge, and a quick answer may not result in a permanent solution. One of the best known methods for developing alternatives is through brainstorming, where a group works together to generate ideas and alternative solutions. The assumption behind brainstorming is that the group dynamic stimulates thinking. One person's ideas, no matter how outrageous, can generate ideas from the others in a group. Ideally, this spawning of the ideas is contagious, and before long, lots of suggestions and ideas flow. Brainstorming usually requires 30 minutes to an hour. Now, what is nominal group technique? This method involves the use of a high structured meeting complete with an agenda and restricts discussion or interpersonal communication during the decision making process. This technique is useful and because it ensures that every group method has equal input in the decision making process. It also avoids some of the pitfalls such as pressure to conform group dominance, hostility, and conflict that can plague a more interactive, spontaneous, unstructured forum such as brainstorming. So what is this Delphi technique? With this technique, the participants never meet, but a group leader uses written questionnaires to conduct the decision making. No matter what technique is used, group discussion making has clear advantage and disadvantage when compared with individual decision making. The following are among the advantages, such as group provides a broader perspective, employees are more likely to be satisfied and to support the final decision, the opportunities for discussion help to answer questions and reduce uncertainties for the decision makers. These points are among the disadvantages. This method can be more time consuming than one individual making the decision on his own. The decision reached could be a compromise rather than an optimal solution. The individuals become guilty of the group think, that is a tendency of the members of a group to conform to the prevailing opinions of the group. The group may have difficulty performing tasks because the group rather than a single individual makes the decisions, resulting in confusion when it comes time to implement and evaluate the decision. The results of dozen individuals versus the group performance studies indicate that group not only tends to make better decisions than a person acting alone, but also that group tends to inspire star performance to even higher levels of productivity. So, are two heads better than one? The answer depends on several factors such as the nature of the task, the ability of the group members, and the form of interaction. Because a manager often has a choice between making a decision independently or including others in the decision making, she needs to understand the advantage and disadvantage of the group making decision. So, let's now talk about the analyze the alternative. The purpose of this step is to decide the relative merits of each idea. The manager must identify the advantage and disadvantage of each alternative solution before making a final decision. Evaluating the alternatives can be done in a numerous ways. Here are the few possibilities, such as determine the pros and cons of each alternative, then weigh each factor's important in importance in the decision, ranking each alternative relative to its ability to meet each other, and then multiply by probability factor to provide a final value for each alternative. Regardless of the method used, a manager needs to evaluate each alternative in terms of its feasibility, like how can it be done? Can it be done or not? Then effectiveness, how well does it resolve the problem situation, and the consequences, like what will it be cost to the organizations. Select the best alternatives. After the manager has analyzed all the alternatives, she must decide on the best one. The best alternative is that one that produces the most advantages and fewer serious disadvantages. Sometimes the selection process can be fairly straightforward, such as the alternative with the most pros and fewer cons. Other times, the optimal solution is the combination of several alternatives. Sometimes the best alternative may not be obvious. That's why a manager must decide which alternative is the most feasible and effective, coupled with which carries the lowest cost to the organization. Probability estimates, where analysis of each alternative chances of success takes place, often comes into play at this point in the decision making process. In those cases, a manager simply selects the alternatives with the highest probability of success. Now, talking about the implementing the decision. The managers are paid to make decisions, but they are also paid to get results from these decisions. The positive results must follow decisions. Everyone involved in the decision must know his or her role in ensuring a successful outcome. To make certain that employees understand their roles, managers must thoughtfully devise programs, procedures, rules, or policies to help aid them in this problem solving process. Now, establish a current control and evaluation system. The ongoing action needs to be monitored. An evaluation system should provide feedback on how well the decision is being implemented, what the results are, and what the adjustments are necessary to get the results that were intended when the solution was chosen. In order for a manager to evaluate his decisions, he needs to gather information to determine its effectiveness. Was the original problem resolved? If not, is he closer to the decision desired situation than he was in the beginning of the decision making process? The manager may accomplish this by asking different questions, which we'll be seeing in the next session. So that is all for this session. Thank you.